And we're live. Hi, everyone. I am Coach Kayla, online plant-based dietitian, nutrition, run coach. And this is, let me make sure I say your name right. I know it's like French, right?
Yeah. Yeah, my husband calls me Brigitte, right? And that's good enough for Anglophones. That's perfect. Yeah, okay. Brigitte Gemme.
Okay. Brigitte Gemme. Okay, awesome. So she is from the Vegan Family Kitchen, and she's going to tell us all about today about batch cooking and how it is beneficial specifically for vegan runners, as you guys all are, especially in my Facebook group, on why batch cooking is so important and all of that stuff. So and she works specifically with families as well, so I think this is really, really great, because I know a lot of people too in the group have families, and it's not easy to meal prep and plan, especially trying to meet all your needs, right, as a runner and somebody that's plant-based. So yeah, I'm excited to talk with her today. If you are live, let me know you're here. Say hi. Anika's on. Hi, Anika. Welcome. And if you are just watching this on replay, just comment below and let us know that you're watching this on replay. So let's see. Awesome. What is my first question? Oh, so how long and how long have you been plant-based, and why did you decide to be plant-based?
Yeah, so I first came to eating a plant-based diet for primarily environmental reason. The year was 2013. And so I'm originally from Montreal, hence the French accent. But at that time, we were living in Vancouver, so on the wet coast of Canada. And then for 1 year, we had to go to the Bay Area, to Stanford, because my husband was finishing his subspecialty training. He's a physician. So we had to go there for a year. And at the time, I was working at UBC, so the University of British Columbia. I was the manager of research services in one of the faculties, and I had staff, and my boss was just so awesome. She allowed me to work remotely. So I was working at home in California, and the deal was that I had to come to the office every 6 weeks or so. So I was doing a lot of flying, and I was feeling super guilty about it. And at the same time, 2013, there was that multi-year drought in California. And I swear, for the whole time we were there, it rained for like 5 hours, like for a whole year. And on the one hand, it was really awesome for cycling and running, and, it was just beautiful. Yeah. But then I kept thinking about that lady. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. Her name is Turia Pitt. She's an Australian. And she was running this ultra marathon when there was a wildfire that caught in the brush. And she burnt over like 65% of her body, right? And I kept having those visions when I was going for trail runs. What if? Because it was tinder dry, right? And I was always really worried. And so environmental issues became really personal for me during that year, where on the one hand, I felt like I was really a big part of the problem. And at the same time, I could be a very, possible victim of, the weather conditions, basically, that we were contributing to as humans with, human activity-driven climate change. Anyway, so I was feeling really strongly about it. And I happened upon a book at that time that was written by really an acquaintance, like somebody I used to work with. And it was about the environmental and ethical aspects of animal agriculture. And I was like, oh, I always thought of myself as this like green, eco-friendly person. But I was like, oh, I'm fueling my running and my cycling and my activity on steak, really. I'm also part of the problem. And so at that time, I decided to completely stop cooking with those, animal products, so meat, dairy, and eggs. So at home, if I was at a restaurant, I would be, flexible and order the vegetarian option. I think at the time, vegan options were not that common. And if I was at my in-laws, well, I will eat whatever came out of the barbecue, which was usually steak, right? And so I still had that soft spot for steak. But then in 2015, I had my second child. And if anybody who's listening has breastfed, they will probably recognize themselves. I was spending my days on the couch, right, with this tiny little new baby. And when you're on the couch with a tiny new baby that like falls asleep on you and you can't move, well, you spend a lot of time on your phone and reading, articles. And so I spent more time reading about the animal rights and ethics of animal food. And I had this little baby on me and I was nursing him, right? And I was thinking, what if somebody, like we do to cows, right? What if somebody took away my baby, pumped my milk, and like re-inseminated me to have more babies, so that, you could keep the milk production going. And I was thinking also about, hens that were really, we harness the reproductive organs of hens for our personal needs. And at that biological phase of my life was when I was really a milk machine. I was like, okay, that's wrong. I don't want to have any part of this anymore. And that's when I decided to go fully vegan. So that was the big, the big transition for me, was that summer of 2015 when I was like, okay, I don't want to have any part to do with this anymore.
Wow.
So big transition. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool though. I don't often hear stories like that come from that really strong environmental reason, which is really great, I think.
Yeah, we weren't thinking about health really back then, which is, I mean, we were healthy people. I think we thought we were eating a pretty healthy diet, mostly home cooked food. My mom and my husband moms are both great cooks, and we ate, pretty well, or so did we think, right? And we weren't healthy, so we weren't thinking about that. Now, if I made, I see it differently now. Unfortunately, my father passed away last year of a lifetime of, not great eating, despite my mother's best efforts. And I'm thinking more about longevity now. And so now the health aspect is a lot more present in my life. But back then, totally, it was really coming from more of an ethical perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. Great. And then what, so I'd like to know more too about, I think, your journey too as a runner. So I know you're also a runner and a mother. So how has running played in all of this as well?
Yeah, I think I've heard you say before that you were not much of a, didn't like running much as a kid.
Yes.
And I was the same. I was that nerdy girl. I mean, I'm not saying you were a nerdy girl. I was a nerdy girl.
Oh, I was.
When I was in school. Yeah, and I was always the last person picked on the team. And, I'm like, what were teachers thinking, in letting kids pick other kids on the teams? Like, I just still feel it, being the last person on the bench and never being picked for team sports. So I didn't like team sports very much, but I really liked the cycle. I think cycling was a very, it was like independence. I could cycle in my hometown. And then eventually when I moved to the city, to Montreal, I would cycle to work, and, you didn't have to wait for the bus. You didn't have to deal with a car and pay all that money. It was really freedom. And sometime in my mid-20s, I got a road bike, and I was like, this is awesome. It goes fast, like those skinny tires. And I got really into hill climbing. Up and down was just the best thing for me. And I really, really enjoyed cycling. And so I came to Vancouver in 2005 to do a PhD here at the University of British Columbia. And it was seriously like my third day here. And I was living on campus, and I was all doled up, like dressed up. I was going to my friend's wedding. I had a friend in Vancouver. She was getting married. I was going down the stairs, and up the stairs, this guy was coming, all decked out in Lycra with this really nice road bike. And he was looking very fit, right? And I said, nice bike. Anyway, so that was my husband. I mean, now he's my husband. Then he was not. But, that's how we met. And Chris, that's his name, was very much into triathlon at the time. And that's, a couple months later, we were dating, and we've been married now almost 15 years. But because he was into triathlon, I was like, that looks fun. I'll do it. And I didn't know how to swim. So I had to teach myself to swim, but running was something, I was okay at. And so because I didn't like swimming very much, I didn't really stick with triathlon. But running was something really cool, because in Vancouver, you can cycle year round. But in the winter, it rains like a lot. And eventually I was cycling through the winter, and you get soaked and you're cold. And I was like, I'd rather be running, Yeah. So that's what I just decided to focus on in the winters. And I would sign up for longer, half marathon distance. So it would keep me out on the road, exercising for longer periods. And in the summer, I was more focused on cycling when it's warmer. So I could never run in Florida like you, because I'm like, it's way too hot. Even when you think it's cold, for me, it's too hot. But winter running is really awesome. And as on the one hand, I advanced in my PhD and I had to be really, really focused on getting that thing written. Running became a big focus, because you could just, get out and run and it's done. Cycling, it takes a long time. Running is really efficient. So, and you can go out there and connect with your, the forest or whatnot. So that was really fun. And then with kids, it's the same thing. I don't think I went for a bike ride until my daughter was 5 years old, because it takes so long. You need to get dressed, while you're getting dressed, something's going to happen. A child will cry. They don't want you to go, whereas running, you just take your shoes outside and you close the door and then you put on your shoes. Go. So running was really a sanity saving in terms of exercise. So to this, now I'm a little, when I hit my 40s, I started thinking I need to do more strength training. As you can see, I have really big biceps. So I decided to do more for bone health mostly. And there's an Orange Theory gym that opened across the street from me. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So I've been going there. But then the pandemic hit and I was back running on the streets to get my exercise and lifting weights at home. So it's been a return to running, and it's been really, I think I enjoy it even more now than I did before. It just feels, it feels really free and very satisfying. I don't really care about how fast I'm going. I'm just enjoying it. So it's super fun.
That's awesome. I love that. I love all of that. That's so great. So great.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Now I want to shift a little bit and talk more about the Vegan Family Kitchen and how that started.
Yeah. Combination of circumstances. So in 2015, when I went fully vegan and I had my second child, I was also in the midst of a professional crisis, like professional midlife crisis kind of thing. I had been working in academia for 15 years. Sometimes I was a student, sometimes I was a researcher, sometimes I was more on the kind of policy making side. And I have a lot of appreciation for basic research. Like my work at that time was really supporting the work of other researchers rather than doing my own research, right? And I just became kind of upset. Oh, no, hold on a second. Eric, yeah, thank you. My son's made a picture. You want to show your picture? And then, okay, I'm on a meeting, Eric. No, not right now. I'm sorry. Okay, go see that. It's spring break, so the kids are at home from school.
Aww.
Yeah. Okay. Can I show my friend? Okay, you're going to camp in the living room. That's awesome. Sorry about that.
With all of us.
All of us. Yeah. I need to finish my meeting first. Yes. Okay.
Oh, that's so
I should have locked that door. Okay. He is quite cute. He got a haircut.
How old is he?
So sorry about that. So I was saying that I was in this professional midlife crisis, exemplified by this year, where on the one hand, I was seeing all these really big problems in society, right? And, we've mentioned climate change and poverty and all those things. And really about a lot of those problems, we know what to do already. Like there's solutions that exist. We've looked them up, but we're not doing it. And I kind of became impatient. I was like, sure, I want those people to keep on doing their work, but I feel the need to be more directly applying the knowledge that we already have. And at that time, at the same time, my husband was starting his full-time professional career, which meant that he was working crazy hours and childcare was greatly diminished. So I had to do a shift in my life for my sanity. And I decided not to go back to work after my mat leave and see if I could start a small business online instead. And there were lots of ideas that I kicked around, but at the end of the day, there's one area that people want support for, and it's usually their food. And because of my project management background, I think I was getting pretty good at organizing myself around that plant-based meal planning and batch cooking thing. And I decided to make that the focus of my business. And that's how the Vegan Family Kitchen was born.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And what was the reason behind, really focusing on vegan and families?
Well, that's the funny thing, because in the last year, I've started to recognize that most of my clients actually don't have families, and they're not vegan either.
Oh,
And
that's funny.
for people who want to eat more plants, and I think everybody struggles with that eternal question of what's for dinner, right? My mom always said the hardest thing about dinner is not cooking, it's not getting groceries, it's not even cleaning. It's just deciding what the heck to cook, right? And that was so true for me, especially when I went plant-based, because I thought I was a pretty good cook. Right before I was, my mom taught me a lot, and I was really, growing into my own, family cook kind of thing. Not a super fancy chef, but I was doing okay. But like all of a sudden, it just seemed like so much to think about, and so many different variables that I didn't know much about. And it was really, really overwhelming, especially with the kids. And that's where I think it doesn't matter if the people you're trying to feed are kids or they're adults. Everybody's picky in their own way, right? Everybody has their own preferences. And if you just think of feeding yourself, it's not that hard, But when others come into the mix, it can be really, really stressful. And you want the best for you, sure, but you also, you want your kids to grow. You have I don't know, family members that tell you, oh, you can't raise your kids vegan, you're not feeding them meat or whatever. You have a lot of stress, right? So trying to take some of the stress out was something that I focused on, because I'm a sociologist by training. I'm not a dietitian or anything like that. I'm more of a project manager and a sociologist. Like I understand how people change and how societies change. That's my thing. So I try to make the meal plans the easiest possible. I try to, help people make that transition to in the easiest possible way, like not to have to worry about what's for dinner. I incorporate a lot of the knowledge that I get from reading the literature, and I try to pass it on. But really, at the juncture when you have especially young children, it's really, I think it adds an extra layer of a little bit of anxiety, even, what if I don't get us right? Like the stakes are high, right? You want your kids to grow and to be as wonderful as they can be. So that's really, although it's not the majority of my clients, I think it's still a big focus for me to make sure that we all get the nutrition we need to be the best we can be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've even had conversations with clients before, and they're like, it's so overwhelming. I don't know how to fix. I feel like I'm a failure as a mom, and no one wants to, you don't want to feel like that. And that can just help so much.
Yeah. And it's, we were talking, I was mentioning breastfeeding earlier, right? And we're still in a culture where, I think it's changed since I had my first child almost 10 years ago. But, there's still a lot of people that, my mother did not breastfeed, and, very few of my older relatives did. And so whenever you had a fussy baby, or, your baby has a tummy issue or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, funny behavior, oh, it's because you're breastfeeding, right? And we get the same thing with the plant-based food. It's tempting to just blame everything on the food, right? And so if, your kid is not growing right, or it's growing too much, they're gaining weight, they're not gaining enough weight. If they're like coming in again to show some more drawing while I'm having a meeting, oh, you are going to camp in the living room tonight. We are going to. So maybe that's. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm included. I'm so grateful. They're so awesome. But if they're behaving funny, maybe it's because they're short on some nutrient because you're not feeding them meat, right? And so it's always something that people really, really worry about, and it's not true. There are for sure weirdo people who feed their kids like, I don't know, water and air, and that's vegan, but that's not good for you, right? But I think the vast majority of people I know who are plant-based parents are really, really, really mindful of what they put on the table, and they work so hard to educate themselves. And we really don't have much to worry about compared to, feeding our kids chicken nuggets all day long, and
right.
fries and ketchup and pizza,
Chemicals
right?
and processed
Or
foods.
even like cheese, like, is just such a
Yeah.
gross thing. I mean, I
Mhm.
used to love cheese, but now I think about it and I'm like, oh goodness gracious,
Mhm.
and I'm
Yeah.
so glad I'm not putting my kids through that. And they, if they choose to eat some on their own, that's their choice. But the vast
Yeah.
majority of their food is plant-based, and they get plenty of fiber and plenty of all the nutrients that they really need.
Wow, that's great. And have they ever complained or not liked anything?
Oh, they don't like anything all the time. It's just what they do. Sometimes my son, he's 5 now. My daughter is starting to be more adventurous, interested. I'd like to try this, Mom. And like, she'll have a piece and she's like, nah, no. They don't like things that are like spicy or seasoned, and they don't like things mixed together. But they eat a lot of different kind of foods. But so my son sometimes will sit down and look at what's on the table, and he'll be like, Mom, I want a different dinner. And it's like, it's hard not to curse, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, there's no different dinner. This is what it is. It's not easy all the time. The main thing that I find really hard as more as an ethical vegan, right, is that if we go out, there's always a kids, not always, but often if you go eat out, there's a kids menu, right? And there's usually on the adult menu, there's a couple of vegan options that will sometimes be really good, right? And or at the very least, they'll have a Beyond Burger or something, But then for the kids menu, it's always, pasta with tomato sauce, which my kids will eat the plain pasta, but they don't want the sauce. Or like fried chicken strips with fries, and maybe mac and cheese, and they won't eat like non-vegan cheese. So like those are their options. Like they won't eat a salad or anything fancier. So that's really a challenge. So sometimes even if we go to Chipotle, well, there's black beans, but they're really spicy, whereas the meat is a lot more mild. So my kids will still eat non-vegan food when they're outside, just because they can't stand the taste. And I can feel that my daughter is really starting to struggle with it. Like she's like, oh, I don't want to go to Chipotle, because she doesn't like that it's like pork that she's going to eat. But then if she doesn't want to eat the vegan option, because it's just not to her liking. So that's the part that's a little bit of a struggle. So they often prefer vastly to eat at home and to eat whatever is in their lunchbox. We don't have a lunch program at schools here, so it's not too much of a, not all the schools, but most schools anyway. So they don't struggle with that, like all their friends eating something that they're not eating. Yeah, so mostly they're pretty happy about it, but they're selective eaters is the way to say it. They're a little choosy. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's great though, that they'll try things and like are learning too, like
Yeah, totally.
why they're eating this way, which I think is so great, to educate your kids. And I don't see that a lot, at least the kids that I've talked to or worked with in the past, is they don't have that education at home about nutrition. And I used to go in and teach these kids about nutrition, and it was just so hard. It was heartbreaking to me, because these kids are just not getting fed the food that they should be, and they're like looking at me like, what?
What's all this? Vegetables. I mean, my kids, I think, the more I don't want to, I don't want to just self-justify, right? But I really wonder sometimes if there's something I mean, we know that kids don't like greens in general because they're a little bitter. And, from an evolutionary perspective, it's better that you don't go walk about, eat all the bitter things, because they're going to kill you, right? In the savannah or whatever, right? So there's a deep evolutionary reason for that. But sometimes I wonder, maybe they do need to eat more of the, carb things or they eat plain beans and plain things, and maybe less of the vegetables. I mean, I want them to be open about vegetables, but I'm not forcing them to eat all the things, right? They eat red pepper because it's sweet, right? And they like that. But I don't, I'm guessing that their little bodies know what they're doing to some extent.
Right.
Fingers crossed. So far so good. They're healthy, they're dynamic,
Yeah.
they're thriving, they're sharp little witty kids. So I think it's going to be all right.
Yeah. Good. We do have a question that just came in. If your kids don't want to eat what you offer, how do you handle it?
That's a great question. Well, so most of the meals and the way I cook, so I follow my meal plans. We'll get back to that in a minute, but I follow my own meal plans, and they're meant to be deconstructed. That means that, the easiest example is, say, a bowl or some pasta or whatever, right? So I will cook the ingredients, but as I go, I set aside plain, unseasoned things. And I put them on a plate for them. And there's always going to be in every meal at least one or two things that are like green light, happy foods for them, or if they're not totally happy, they're at least tolerable foods, right? So they eat pasta, they eat quinoa, they eat grains, whatever. So there's going to be that, and it will be uncontaminated, no sauce, no seasoning. So I'm not cooking a separate meal for them. I just extract those ingredients as I go. And I set them aside for them so they can pick what they want. And not all the time, but usually I try to give them a little bit of the main, like the way the adults eat it. And they might or might not touch it. So my daughter increasingly will venture, and recently she started putting her sauce on her pasta. I was trying not to jump up and down at the table, right? But I was like, oh, that's great, Chloe. But previously she might have eaten the sauce or the pasta separately. So I think most kids want that freedom to compose their own meal. I mean, it's like nobody likes to be force-fed food that they don't want or don't know, and there's a natural reluctance there, and I get it, right? So they have the freedom to assemble their own meal based on the components that we have. And generally, if they come short, if there's really not a whole lot in it for them for the dinner, then usually they will, double down on the snack later in the evening. So we make, they always have a fruit snack in the evening. They might have some maybe vegan yogurt, or they will have extra uncooked pasta or beans, or they like plain tofu. It's kind of weird. They like that. I guess it's a acquired taste. Yeah. So they just have more at the next meal usually.
Yeah.
But yeah, decomposing the meals it gives them the freedom to explore without having me cook a completely separate meal. Yeah. Once in a while, I have to say, in all honesty, if I'm making vegan pizza, the adults pizza, because I can't make a super big pizza, so I make smaller pizza. So I will make one for the adults that will have whatever fancy, smart ingredients that I'm putting on it, and I might make a kid's pizza with like vegan pepperoni and a little bit of vegan cheese on it, and it will make them feel like special and love that I've made a special thing for them. But it's not getting out of my way, really. We're all still having pizza.
Right.
So I'll do that on occasion. But yeah, most of the time they eat some version of what we're having, but based on their personal readiness.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's really great, because I've had clients like come to me and they're like frustrated, right? They're just confused. They're like, what do I do? Like, how do I feed myself and my family at the same time if they don't eat the way I do? So I love that you, have cook the same foods, but you have them still choose, and you don't force them to eat anything that they don't want to try or want to eat. So I think that's really great.
And you can, they can smell it, if they're really feeling, a little crazy, they can lick it. They don't have to put it in their mouth. Right. I think there's a lot of people out there walking around with some kind of food trauma, and I'm really hoping my kids don't get it from me. And we try also not to have like bad foods and good foods. I mean, we try. My husband cycles like still a lot. Like I run a fair bit, but he cycles like a lot. And so he eats, like he needs a lot of food, right? And after dinner, he goes kind of on a hunt, right? He's looking for food. And so the challenge is that he will have some things that like he craves that he needs in the house.
Right.
I don't know, tortilla chips, right? And he wants those things. And then it's like, well, if dad is having it, why am I not having like a big bowl of chip, right? But these days we've settled on popcorn, which is a whole grain.
Oh, there you go.
And we make it, from just kernels in the microwave in a paper, brown paper bag. And that seems to, fit everybody's needs. So it's, whole foods, plant-based, no oil. You don't have to add salt. and the kids love it. And that way, it also hits that spot after dinner sometimes if people are still feeling hungry. But yeah, the key is we want to have food in the house that we're okay eating, not stuff that we don't want to promote. But at the same time, once in a while, they have candy, or they have, yesterday was my father-in-law's birthday, and my mother-in-law made this really awesome chocolate vegan cake. And we took the rest home, and after dinner we had a piece. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great. And Anika also asked, do you have your kiddos help with meals?
Oh, I wish I did it more. I feel really bad about it. I've posted a couple of blog posts about that. So if you go to veganfamilykitchen.com/blog, and I think there's a place you can click strategies. I've got a couple of guest articles, one from Dr. Pamela Ferguson, the dietitian, and she's a plant-based dietitian who talks about what she did with her kids. And it's so awesome. She did kitchen internships where she has 3 or 4 kids, something like that. And one at a time, they were like the intern in the kitchen, and they would help a little bit every day, not the whole meal, but just, 15 minutes a day kind of thing over the course of a month to build up their skills. Because the challenge that I have, my kids are like this, like they love each other so much and they all want to do the same thing together. And I can't manage 2 kids at the same time in the kitchen. So if one comes and says, oh, I want to help, then the other one comes rushing in. And then it's like a battle over who's holding the measuring cup and stuff.
Oh, no.
And, it's kind of fun, but it takes you like nowhere fast in terms of getting the meal on the table. So we do it a bit, but not half as much as we need to. But I think that strategy will be really, my daughter's 9 now, so I've chatted about it with her, and she's really interested in doing more baking too, which is awesome because I don't bake enough. Like I want to make more muffins and like energy balls kind of thing and stuff to bring in their lunches. So we need to do more of that, but I think it will be the kitchen internship strategy that's going to start this summer, where we have a little bit more bandwidth. So check out that article. The other one is about the different tasks that different kids can do depending on their age. So I think it's called Ways to Get Kids Engaged into Cooking or something like that. So there's lots of good suggestions there, but do what I say, not what I do.
Yes, it's not easy. Not easy to do.
Working on it.
That's great. That's so great, though. I think it's so important. I actually, part of my graduate program that I did a lot of research with cooking with kids and how that helped them to actually eat more fruits and vegetables. So I think
totally.
It's so cool. It's so valuable. And I think you shared some really, really great tips for anyone that has kids. Definitely. So cool. Now, what else? So how about how can this meal planning, how can this help, say, a lot of people in my group, are runners and may also have families as well. So how can this help, how can this, having a meal plan, how can that help runners as well to meet their needs as well as make sure they're getting the needs for their kids as well? Yeah.
So, if we talk about philosophy here for a second, what we eat is what we are. Like our cells are made of the nutrients we intake through, our mouth. For the most part, there's a little bit of other stuff, but mostly it's we're made of what we've eaten, right? And as an athlete or any person who uses their body for work, and even if you're using your brain for work, it's also your body, right? What we eat becomes also what we do, like our capacity to do stuff. And I really cannot think of anything more important in our life, than what we eat. And making sure that you eat good stuff. However, unfortunately, I think as a society, this whole thing about eating and cooking, it's kind of become an afterthought or something like of an inconvenience. And there's some really unfortunate reasons in terms of how we have such a unequal society, basically, where people have to, sometimes work 2 jobs. Like a lot of people don't even have a kitchen and things like that, right? Where they're really struggling with insecurity and it's hard to feed themselves. But there's also lots of people who have a home, who have a job, who don't, are not excessively stressed, who still don't put food as a, top priority. And I think that's really unfortunate. And that's a shift that we've certainly made in my family where, you know what, it's worth putting a lot of effort, or even like a significant amount of effort, if it's not a lot, but, it's worth thinking about what we eat, because it's, maybe it would save time today if we don't meal plan. But in the long run, like either it will cost us in terms of years of life that we don't get to live, or it will cost us in terms of quality of life. Going to the doctor for appointments takes a lot of time too, right? So I'd rather spend my time meal planning if I can. And of course, what a whole foods plant-based diet is not, a magic panacea, a magic pill for excellent health for your whole life, but it sure helps a lot. And so I think investing the time up front in cooking is really important. So that's what, for me, the meal plans are about, right? It's about not spending my whole day, because that's what I was doing before, right? I was like, I would start, I would get to work after surviving breakfast, and it would be, I would have to be working, but whenever I had a moment, it would be, what are we having for dinner, right? And maybe I would be sneaking into Pinterest, right? Or Googling a recipe and thinking, oh, I don't have this ingredient, or I don't know how to do this, or that's weird, or how can I do this faster? So that was really consuming a lot of my effort. So having the plan, having decided it again ahead of time, means that you don't have to worry about it. And just for that, for me, it was like a life-saving thing. Also, not having to rely on willpower, right? When you come home at 5 o'clock, especially having picked up kids from daycare, or, having had a stressful day at work, and then you have to, cook dinner from scratch, having to think of something. People are talking to you at the same time. You're trying, my husband comes home and he's unpacking his day from whatever happened. Like there's if you want to feed yourself well, you need to think about it a little bit. But if you're trying to think about it at 5 p.m. at night, it's like, we call it the witching hour for those who have kids. And it's totally true. Like, it's not a good time to have knives in your hands, right? So not a good idea. From a very practical standpoint, it saves a lot of time and money, especially money. So having, and it saves, it reduces food waste. I don't know how many times before I was really into meal planning, I bought, we'd go to the farmer's market on the weekend and super good intentions and buy all the amazing vegetables. And then Friday you open the fridge and then super nice vegetables are like, whereas now
thrown away.
I love it so much when on a Friday. So I usually, I do my meal plan, or I revise my meal plan on Friday night. Saturday, if we can, we go to the farmer's market. And Sunday, I usually do a little bit of prep. And throughout the week, we eat the food. And then Friday, my husband will open the fridge and he's like, the fridge is empty. And I'm like, yes, I did it. It means I used everything and we're ready to start over, right? And I didn't buy amazing food with beautiful vitamins that went, to the compost heap. So that really feels good.
That's great.
And a key thing of meal planning is that if you know what you're eating in the week, then you can extract some of what I call building blocks that you can prepare on the weekend and do some batch cooking. And that takes the power of meal planning to the next level up in terms of really reducing reliance on willpower and the time it takes to just get dinner on the table on the weekends, on the weeknights.
Absolutely. Yeah. So tell more about batch cooking. So when you're talking about batch cooking, I know you wanted to talk about this. When you say that, do you mean like cook up a whole head of broccoli and use that for different meals through the week and snacks? Like how, I guess, explain more about that.
I mean, there's lots of different ways to do it, and people need to figure out what works best for them, right? But I'll just talk about the approach I take in the meal plans. As an aside, there's something I call minimum viable prep, right? Is that if you have zero time, well, you have at least an hour. There's an hour you can find in your day on the weekend or whenever it's convenient for you. And in that hour, you can cook some grains like quinoa, brown rice, something. You can prepare some kind of veggies. I like roasting myself, but there's other ways. And you can also make something like a simmered dish, whether it's a soup, a stew, like a chili, a curry, or something. And and also, if possible, squeeze in a dressing or a sauce. Like those are the kind of things that people tend to buy ready-made at the store. But if you can, in 1 hour, you can do those 4 things. And it will just make your life so much easier in the weeknight. I mean, if you have a family of 4, 5, 6 people to feed, obviously that will not be enough. But especially for a single or a couple, that minimum viable prep will definitely carry you through the possibility of, improvising some meals throughout the week. What I do is a little bit more involved. So the way I work is that I plan my meals 2 weeks at a time. So I find that having that like 10 dinners window gives me the option of cooking some building blocks that I can use in multiple meals. So my favorite example, I make a really mighty vegan bolognese kind of sauce. I make it different ways depending on the season. But, it goes super well on pasta, obviously, on gnocchi, which is like potato pasta. But it goes well on roasted portobello. It goes well on polenta. You can just eat it with a spoon if you want.
It sounds so good.
So you cook that thing once, and then you can eat 3 or 4 dinners that feel different over the course of those 2 weeks. Or I will make, I don't know, a cashew kind of cream, cashew sauce thing. And it will have a role in like a topping for pizza. It will go in, I don't know, burritos. And then you can use it to make it like a creamy Alfredo style pasta dish on a different day, right? And so that's a little bit like next level batch cooking in the sense of when I plan my meals for 10 dinners at a time, I don't feel like I need to really plan breakfast and lunch very much. Lunch, we tend to eat leftovers. Breakfast, personally, I just have overnight oats every day, and I do batch them. Like I batch all my overnight oats on the weekend, and that way I don't need to do it at the last minute. But so specifically for dinner, it's really about that, thinking about those different components that can serve many different meals in the week. So you always get a different dinner. Like you're not eating pasta with bolognese sauce, 5 times in 2 weeks. That would kind of suck, right? I mean, it's better than the alternative, I guess. But I really try to have those common pieces. Or, if I cook quinoa for the next 2 weeks, it will come back in like 3 different meals. And so you cook a big batch, you freeze some, and then the following week you have some leftover that you can use in a different way than the way you used it in the first week. And so usually I alternate between having a big prep session that has like a lot of stuff going in it. And then the following week, I will have like a smaller prep session for just some last minute fresher veggie things. The one thing, I know there's some people who cook their whole thing on the weekend. Like they make a stir fry on the weekend and they eat it sometime in the week. I personally don't like that. I find that the veggies just taste better. And I'm guessing they probably have more nutrients as well if I cook them a little more at the last minute. But I make the sauce in advance, right? And I will prepare the stir fry sauce so that I don't have to, I don't know, like start my blender on a weeknight or I will cook brown rice ahead of time because brown rice takes a long time to cook, right? So on a weeknight, forget it. It's not happening. But on the weekend, sure, I can do it. So I make a really big batch. I freeze some of it. I keep some for the week. And so when I do the stir fry, well, it just takes 10 minutes to, warm up the wok and, chop a few veggies and the total, it takes 15, 20 minutes, which is acceptable for me. If I want dinner to be on the table in 5 minutes on weeknights, it's possible, right? But there's going to be a compromise somewhere.
Right.
So that's my method of batch cooking. Sometimes it also means if I do, usually in the weeknights, there's going to be one slow cooker dish. So you can make it on the weekend. That's nice. But if you didn't, you start it, let's say Wednesday morning, Wednesday night, you eat whatever comes out of it. And usually I will have my clients save some of it because the slow cooker makes a big batch. They save some of it and it comes back in the meal the following week. So that's basically optimizing our time in the kitchen, just like we try to optimize everything, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So what do your meal plans exactly look like? Can you explain?
Yeah.
I know you wanted to show.
This is a dirty one. Yeah, we
Yeah,
couldn't do
there you
share screen. This one looks dirty because I've used it. I always cook from my meal plan. So there's other meal planning services out there, and they're awesome. There's all sorts of different options. Some of them are more like computer generated, and some of them, like mine, are written by hand with love. But so I think something that's specific here is that I do plan the meals 2 weeks at a time. And so on every meal plan, there's, the list of the 10 meals that you're going to eat, including what is it that you're going to do in advance and what it is that you're going to do at the last minute. And there's a few tips. A lot of people need some substitutions because they have allergies, gluten-free, whatever it is. So there's some suggestions there. And then there's the so powerful shopping list that I've prepared. And it explains, you need to buy sage. It goes in the potato soup, right? And this is when you need to buy it. And so then there's 2 different components. Like, people have to read it. It does take a bit of time to get acquainted with it, but I think once you're into it, it's pretty seamless. So for every week, there's like, on Monday, this is what you do. On Tuesday, this is what you do. And it's not the full recipe. It basically tells you, well, pull out like the brown rice. So you're supposed to have done it on the weekend. And this is where the prep session comes out. So I've ordered the steps that you're supposed to make on the weekend, so they make the most sense. In particular, for example, if you're going to use a blender for 2 different things, well, I will have you use the blender for something white first, and then for something, colorful after. And usually you don't need to clean it. In between. Like, if you're making a cashew cream, you don't need to like scrape it to death or to, have to wash your blender. You can just reuse it to make your, cream of beets, right? So it saves a lot of time and dishwashing time, especially to have the steps taught ahead of time. Because the danger when people start batch cooking sometimes is like they get really ambitious. Yes. And they make a mess. And then you're like, you're done and you have all that food and that's awesome, but you're like, oh, I'm exhausted. I never want to do this again. And next week you're thinking, oh, I could do batch cooking, but the heck with this because it will take me 4 hours, right? So it's really about following a certain order of steps that makes the most possible sense. And as I was saying, usually there's a bigger session that will take maybe 2 to 3 hours, depending on the skill of the person chopping. And then there's a short, 45 minutes, an hour kind of session on the alternating week. And the thing I was going to say earlier about the other meal plans, and, there's some really lovely options out there. But what they do is that they churn out new meal plans all the time, right? So it just keeps on going. And when I started doing my meal plans, that was kind of my plan too. I started, doing the whole plans, and then I finished the whole year. And I was like, actually, what we ate last year was really good. Like, why do I need to create something new? And so now what I do is that I update the plans. And sometimes, I do change a recipe. Most of the time I fix a typo or, there's an error in the shopping list. So I fix that. But I keep on repeating the same recipes. And what I find is that now I just cook so much faster. And my husband is like, oh, we've never had this before. I was like, actually we did exactly a year ago, right? But that way, what it does is like a cooking course, right? If you follow the meal plans for like even just 6 months, you see the normal, I call them standards for people who play music like jazz. There's a few standards, like tunes that you hear, like that come back over and over in different versions. And that's kind of, there's a stir fry, there's rice dishes of different types. There's like pasta with sauce or, this over that. There's the bits and bobs style, of dinner that can be either a bowl or a platter, but there's only so many different dishes. And once you know those forms, you can easily improvise new dinners based on whatever is seasonal, whatever looks good at the farmer's market, whatever you feel like. But you don't need to slave with an exact recipe and like, oh my God, there's smoked paprika. I don't have smoked paprika. I can't cook dinner. I had a roommate like that. It was like, she couldn't do anything. It was like the end of the recipe. She was like, does not compute. Right. But I think a lot of us are just slaves to recipe, but you don't need to, but we need to have that basic knowledge. And that's what the meal plans aim to do, is like, after a while, you don't even look at the details of the recipe. You're like, oh, you want me to make seitan? Okay, I'll make seitan, right? And you don't need to go into the details. Really, it becomes a habit. So I have lots of customers after a year, they become what I call graduates. They still get the meal plans and they still cook from them, but they don't, they're just updated meal plans. They're not completely brand new plans that they get all the time. And the pricing reflects that. But yeah, that's, I thought it was kind of a downside at the beginning, but it turns out that people love it. They're like, oh yeah, I love those recipes and I'm happy they're back. So.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So during the year then, they're all different recipes for
yeah, pretty much. But as I said, something like a spaghetti sauce, right? Well, it will be different. I usually play every dish like 3 or 4 times a year, but they change with seasonal ingredients. So in the fall and winter, you will have things like squashes, like winter squashes. Whereas in the summer, you will have more tomato. In the spring, you have asparagus. Some imported fruit like mangoes, for example, where they're plentiful in like kind of spring. So that's the time to have them on the menu. I don't suggest that somebody eats asparagus in November, because asparagus comes, from the other side of the world. I do have clients in Australia, and they follow the reverse plans from us. So their seasons being alternate. So they follow the meal plans from summer when we're in winter. But obviously most of my clients are in North America and in Europe. So they follow, we have more or less the same growing seasons. So we have the same kind of stuff in our supermarkets. So so the same recipes, not exactly the same, but the same kinds of dishes come back, but with different combinations of ingredients based on the season. And in the winter also more, comforty food, and in the summer more salads, which means more chopping in the summer, unfortunately. But haven't found a solution to that.
Yeah. You just gotta learn to love it, right?
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Somebody to do it for you, I guess.
That's the alternative. Yes.
Awesome. That sounds so cool. I love it. All right, let me see if there are any other questions that I did. Oh, what would you say is the biggest benefit to batch cooking?
Oh, I can't even imagine another way. I used to not do it, but it just makes my life so much easier. And I was mentioning willpower earlier, right?
Yes.
And again, that awful hour before dinner when you're tired and hangry, maybe, and angry and hungry, and people yelling, people being tired. Like my kids have sometimes, they come home from school and they're just like exhausted, and they're finally home in that comfortable, like loving place, and they just fall apart, right? And if on top of that, I have to decide what's for dinner, and sometimes like maybe there's a plan, but it's like there's nothing cooked, right? So it's like, oh, what a chore. But if I open the fridge and it's waiting for me right there, and it says, jackfruit, pinto bean curry on a Wednesday, I'm like, oh, I feel it physically, right? There's really, it's sorted out. So I don't need to worry about it.
Right.
And I think that's really the key. It takes the willpower out of the equation. It doesn't it's half done. I'm already halfway there. So it's kind of like putting your running clothes next to your bed, right? So you get out of bed and you go into your running clothes. You don't use your willpower to fight the battle of getting dressed. I get dressed. So that's really the key benefit of batch cooking, is you don't need to battle yourself. It's just go ahead and eat the fruit of your labor from a time when you were less stressed, right? And when a time when you were more disposed to making decisions for yourself. Well, that's really the key.
Definitely. I agree. Since I've started kind of doing that as well, like I do all my meal prep on Sundays, I just like have continued to do it, and every Sunday, and I'm like, it's just a habit now. I'm just like, I can't imagine not doing it. And then it's our weekends, right, that are busy, and I don't do it. Then during the week, it's usually the most stressful week ever, because I'm just like, I'm so hangry like all the time because I have nothing ready to eat right away, and I'm so used to just going to the fridge and pulling it out and just warming, some roasted vegetables up and rice.
Totally.
And it's just it makes their life so much easier.
Yeah, and it prevents you from eating all the same thing, right? Because if I don't have a plan and I don't have like the batch cook things, I will fall back onto something that's okay, but it gets repetitive, right? Whereas if I've got a plan that I'm following, it really, the food just is way better. Especially, and especially if you've just had a workout, like you can't have a workout at the end of the day if dinner is not figured out. If you have family, right? Because if you have to feed other people, I'm going for a run at 4:30, and then I get home at 5:45. Oh my God, it's impossible. So then you don't go for a run. But that sucks, right? So instead, what if you could have the better part of both worlds? So
absolutely. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yes. So I would love to know, and hopefully everyone does as well, how do we find you? How can we have access to these meal plans, all that?
Yeah. So the number one thing people need to do this weekend, if they want to have a better week next week, they can take the Planned and Plant-Based Challenge. It's basically a sample plan of 5 dinners. And so you go to veganfamilykitchen.com/planned, PLANNED. And so you need to type in your email, you get a printable thing in return, and you're going to get a few kick in the pants kind of emails throughout the week after that to remind you of why it's such a good thing to do for yourself.
Awesome.
And so it indicates clearly these are the steps you take on the weekend. I think it takes like a couple of hours. And this is how you eat throughout the week. And those are 5 of my favorite recipes, but by no means not the only ones. And that's the best way to connect with me. And if you go into there, then it will give you more info about if people want to stick to the meal plans in the long run. I also have a small online course that's called the 5,000 Meal Solution, because if you're feeding yourself and other people for the next few years, that's about 5,000 meals you have to figure out. And
it's a lot.
It's basically the DIY version of the meal plans, like how somebody can design a simple meal planning strategy for themselves and their family and implement it. So that's also available from my website. If people just sign up for my newsletter, they'll learn more about that.
Great. Awesome. Yes. And we can put the links here below the video. I'll post them in the group and all that for everybody. But yeah, definitely. I definitely encourage people to check that out. Yeah, check both of those out, your plant-based challenge as well as your course, definitely. And is there anything else that we didn't cover? Did I cover everything? Is there anything else you'd like to share with everybody?
This was an awesome conversation, and I just want to say thank you very much for the opportunity to think about all that. The one thing I want everybody to remember is that we have to do it first for ourselves. That has to be our driving motivation. We're not doing, I want my kids to be nourished, sure, okay. That's really important. But it's the most important thing is me. Like, I can only nourish others if I've been nourished first. And if they're a little picky, finicky, if they have sometimes, people have spouses who are reluctant or whatever, start with you. Find, your feel-good groove with yourself. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself. And then you can sort the rest out later, right? But, do it for yourself. Whatever it takes, you won't regret it. Like, there's not ever a meal prep session or a home-cooked meal that I've regretted cooking, ever. So it's like, there's never a run that I've regretted going on. It's the same thing. We have to make it a priority for exactly the same reasons.
Right. Exactly. Yes. I love that. And Anika, I'm going to share here as well. Anika just checked out your challenge.
Oh,
so
good.
That's awesome. Yeah. So
thank you, Anika. We'll see you there. See you in the kitchen. Great place.
Awesome. Yay. Well, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
And Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. And as I said, I'll post those links below to your challenge, your course, all that stuff. And hopefully, well, I'm sure we'll keep in touch and we'll talk
Yeah,
again
thank
soon.
you. All right,
You're
keep on
welcome.
running and keep on cooking.
I will.
All right,
Bye.
take care. Bye-bye.